Okay, negative exponents. This is probably the hardest rule. People struggle the most with these. And we're going to kind of explain why. Whenever you have a negative exponent, the goal is always to get that to a positive. So you'll see on your reviews and things like that, and it says simplify. You can never have negative exponents as a part of your answer. If we look over here at this -7 on number 3, you can have a -7, but you can't have that a to the -4th. And also, to take this one step further, if something is on the bottom, so if we had 1 over x to the -a, then since that's a negative exponent on the bottom, we move that to the top. And of course, we wouldn't put it over 1, but just kind of to make my point. So it says rewrite these with using positive exponents, and that's our rule from now on. You always got to have positive exponents. So the first one's really easy. You just take it and put it over 1, and you're done. Second one gets a little trickier, because this is the only part that's a negative exponent. So the 3 stays on top. A lot of people want to do the following and put the 3 on bottom. That's wrong. Please don't do that. Right? And same thing with number 3. The negative number can stay, but what is negative in this one? Well, it's this right here, a to the -4. So that is the only thing that moves. So you have that -7 that stays on top, the b cubed stays on top, and then the a to the 4th moves to the bottom. We're going to keep going here. It says make sure the final answers only contain positive exponents. And guys, as I go through these, there's going to be points where you could do them differently. Okay, but it does say, hint, use the rules, then move the variables at the end. So all the rules that we've learned, you want to apply those rules first, and then if you have a negative left over, then you make the move to the top or bottom. For example, on this first one, if we apply our rule, it is 7 plus a -9. So that equals w to the -2, which is 1 over w squared. On your work today, you can't just skip to this part and to the answer. There's definitely going to be some simplifying first where you're going to have more than one step. Right? On number 5, I'm going to continue to kind of group these together on the first couple. 4 times 5 is 20, so I combine those. My c's, I have c to the 8, and then plus a -5. And my d's, I have d to the -3 plus a -1. So what can we simplify here? Well, our c stays positive because that becomes 8 minus 5, so that is c cubed. But our d is -3 and -1, so that's d to the -4th. So again, only the negative moves, so we have a final answer of 20c cubed over d to the 4th. Here's 6 times -3, we have -18. And we have x to the -8 plus -3. So we have -18 x to the -11. And then we move the x only. And we get rid of our negative by moving it to the bottom. Here they got these fancy parentheses, and since everything is multiplication, those parentheses really mean nothing. So if we tackle these one at a time, we have, and this is much of a shortcut I would let you do, -5 and 7, a squared. b8, -3 becomes b to the 5th. c -12 and 7 becomes c to the -5th. So I need to see that step there because I'm following this up here. I applied my rules. Now we're going to move our variables at the end. So there's an intermediate step that I should see. A squared, b to the 5th, and c to the 5th. goes to the bottom. Now we're going to get a little trickier here because there's more than one way to do these problems when you have power to a power. I don't like when I have a negative like this. So when I have something like this, my preference is to get rid of this negative right here, right from the get-go, by doing the following. So two ways to do this. I'm going to do this one way here. So I'm going to split the box. I like to get rid of this negative first when it's on the outside like that. So what I would just do is I would put this entire thing over 1. And then I have, sorry about that. And then I have 8p to the 5th, and the parentheses is really important there, just don't lose it. And now I plug in my square. So 8 squared is 64. And then p to the 5 times 2, because that's our power to the power, and you get p to the 10th. That is kind of the preferred way that I would do it. The other option is you take this negative 2 and you would distribute it in. So you would get 8 to the negative 2, and you really don't want to do that in one step, because 8 to the negative 2 is 1 over 64. So you can't make that a 64. It's 1 over 64. 5 times negative 2, negative 10. So now I can take this and simplify it. But now I get 1 over 8 squared, p to the 10th, and then I get my 1 over 64, p to the 10th. I would do the same thing here. I would just take this and put it over 1. 5y squared, and then I will cube it. 5 cubed is 125. So I have 1 over 125, and 2 times 3, y to the 6. I'll finish up these next 3 here. Continuing the same pattern, I have 1 over 3rs to the negative 3. And I'll come back to that s in a minute. It's okay that it's negative. So 3 to the 4th power is 81. And one way we could do that, we know from applying our rules, 3 to the 4th is the same thing as 3 times 2 plus 2. Well, we know that 3 squared is 9. So I could break this down. Instead of trying to do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, you can split this back apart, and I know that 3 squared is 9. I'd have that twice. And that's why I get that 81. So I have 1 over 81, r to the 4th, I have 4 times 1, and then s to the negative 12. Now the only thing that is negative is this exponent, so that's the only thing that moves. Remember, just because this 81's on bottom, that doesn't move. And especially if that 4 was negative, a lot of kids would try to move the 81 with it. Remember, treat that as separate terms, whether you got to put a dot there or whatever you have to do. So my s goes to the top, my 81, and r to the 4th goes to the bottom. So you can feel free to try these a different way. Notice when I move this to the bottom, I didn't change this negative because by moving it to the bottom, I just changed the negative 2 to positive 2. Can't alter that negative 4 because it's in parentheses and we have to address this power to a power first. So now I end up with 1 over 36, that's 6 squared. 5 times 2 is x to the 10th. And then negative 4 times 2 is y to the 8th. And it is negative because you have that negative 4 there. I'm going to fix this 10. X to the 10th. Y to the negative 8. So then your y only goes to the top. So I end up with y to the 8th on top. 36 x to the 10th on the bottom. A little simpler, 2 minus 5 minus is h to the negative 3, which becomes 1 over h cubed. Here, a lot of negatives. See the negative 2 minus 7. And then I have d to the negative 1. Now this is where you gotta be careful. Minus a negative 2. So what this becomes now, after we simplify, negative 2 minus 7, I have c to the negative 9. But here, this becomes d to the first power because I have negative 1 minus the negative 2 becomes plus 2. So what we have is negative 1 plus 2. So it becomes d to the first. So now this d stays on top, and I drop the 1 because we don't need it. And the c to the 9th goes to the bottom. Here we know that 14 divided by 7 is 2. And then I have w 4 minus a negative 2. 4 minus again becomes a positive, just like the previous problem. So we end up with w to the 6th. Last one here, negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And then we have m to the 2 minus 3. And I have n to the 1 minus a negative 5. So this equals negative 5. M to the negative 1. And my n becomes a 6. So then, again, this is the only thing that moves to the bottom. Don't mess with the numbers and flipping those. So I end up with negative 5 on top, along with that n to the 6. The only thing I moved was m to the bottom, which comes m to the first. So I did 1 through 15. You're going to do 16 through, if this is number 26. And yeah, this is a challenge problem. It says it right on there. My hint would be to maybe apply these first here and try to simplify this top row and then cube it. There's a couple different ways you could try this problem, but I want you to take your rules and apply everything and take a good guess at it. It's a nice big box for you to try. So take some time and do that, especially considering you only have 10 of these problems to do. So our assignment is basically 1 through 26, but I already did the first 15 of them for you. So even though this is a 13-minute video, it was worth it because I did more than half the homework for you. So have a good day. And also, if you're turning these in, I've begun emailing answer keys. So you have an answer key waiting for you if you've been doing them and turning them in. So definitely beneficial. You get a full answer key and you can check all your work every day. Have a good one.